Good evening, everyone. Good evening, thanks for being here. This is the second day of our 3-day event, MediumDays, Conjunction, What is Reached in the Distance. And tonight's gathering, Comete, is the incursion of other artistic languages within the poetic program of MediumDays. So in collaboration with Simone Pacini and Fattiditeatro, we are excited to introduce Greek director Elli Papakonstantinou and Italian-Swedish actress Gemma Hansson Carbone. And we are going to talk, hello, thank you for being here. And we're going to talk about their latest show, Traces of Antigone. So welcome, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, it's great being here with you.
Hi everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. So I want to introduce the guests with a few bio notes. And so starting with Elli Papakonstantinou, while revisiting the classics and creating immersive experiences, Elli Papakonstantinou connects notions of myth, philosophy, and major narratives of our days. Named a visiting scholar by Stanford University and a visiting scholar by Princeton University, and nominated twice with the Fulbright Artist Award, Papakonstantinou shaped her ideas from the civic movements that emerged in Greece during the crisis. She's the founder of the international company ODC Ensemble. Gemma Hansson Carbone is an Italian and Swedish actress and director. She studied theater and stage arts in Italy, Sweden, and in the UK. She met and worked with international masters such as Romeo Castellucci, Theodoros Terzopoulos, Rodrigo Garcia, Julie Stanza, Chiara Guidi. And since 2013, she works between Italy and Sweden. In 2015, she founded Napravski, a transnational platform of artists. So we're very excited to have such wonderful artists with us, and especially appreciated your experimental view on theater. With Traces of Antigone, this interactive digital and physical performance that you created during the first lockdown when we were secluded in our homes. So you address somehow the challenges of making a theater piece through the distance. Creating a sort of meta space where the show actually took form and took place. And you have an international cast of performers, and Gemma is part of the ensemble. And my first question to you, Elli, is how did the piece came about? I mean, you defined the piece genderless meta space. Created, as I said, in seclusion. So tell us a bit about the evolution of the process and the work with the ensemble.
So first of all, I want to say that we had already been rehearsing together for 10 days for a physical show when the lockdown happened. And that was very important because we had connected, a very strong connection with each other. And so when the lockdown happened, we continued connecting and talking, and then gradually I started seeing in the windows what was happening was extremely interesting. I mean, there we were rehearsing about unboxing of women, of narrative of women, of their own bodies, of women in internet, of women as objectifying feminine bodies as part of the capitalist system. There we were dealing with all these narratives that were in the text of Christina Ozounidis, Traces of Antigone. And in the Zoom, as we were working, rehearsing, these windows, these boxes kind of regained a new meaning all of a sudden. another part that was extremely interesting for me visually, but also audio-wise, was the fact that working in the mirrors, in the mirrors, I say because there are mirrors as well in the Zoom, like in the Windows mirrors of Zoom, we could create co-narrate the story. So there was a distanciation between the body and the voice. And so sometimes I started developing this machine, let's say, this mechanism where the incredible performers were almost they were co-creators, they're not almost co-creators of the piece. And they were in their homes, working with their own means, with whatever they had in seclusion, no adapts, no other technical assistance. And they were creating these images and these texts on their own. And what we were doing is we were fragmenting the feminine body, fragmenting the voice, the one voice, and the many voices that are in every woman's head, in a way. And that kind of became an interesting collage, or an interesting embroidery, I would say. That's another word that I really like, because it's also very feminine. Something that all the women would stitch together into one new way of telling this story. A very visual and very audio, in a palimpsest, like all the audio was also, we were bringing different languages, like there is Gemma's Swedish, Italian, English, Greek, all this was French, all this was part of the palimpsest of because we didn't just want to talk about ourselves, of course. We were in seclusion. I knew what was happening in many homes. Domestic violence all over Europe was rising, and it became very important to create this work in the crisis time and not at a later momentum.
Yes, exactly. And the piece started as a physical encounter between you. Then it moved into a Zoom platform. So through the digital media, and then through the Roma Europa Festival last October, you had the chance to redesign the show, especially for that live performance. And so the interesting thing that happened is that you had two different shows going on at the same time, two different audiences, one digital audience in Zoom, and then a live audience in space. And how was it to transfer that from the digital to the physical space?
I think it was important to do this because, first of all, I want to say that I really believe that in this time of crisis, it's important to create art and not wait until everything goes back to normal, because now everyone is open and we need art more than ever. We need art more than ever. And of course, we can read books and we can watch films, but what happens with live performances and live shows? So that for me is something that I want to talk about. And then when we were invited at Roma Europa, that was a great opportunity, of course, to present the show live. But I'm interested in fluid formats. As I'm interested in fluid identity, I'm also interested in the medium itself. And I want to work deeper into this understanding of fluid space, fluid gender, fluid format. So I started, we created a parallel universe. So the audience that would watch the physical show would also get a glimpse of the digital performance. And the audience who watched the digital show would also get a glimpse from the physical. And the two shows were not the same. So the people, they were two completely different shows. So in the sense that there was not just a camera filming a show, a physical show, and then live streaming it. That was not the idea. They were designed in such a way that they were completely different. And the idea for that was that because the show talks about presence and absence, we have been kind of absent. I mean, as women in a patriarchal society, in the patriarchy, like we have been for many years not able to tell the story on our own and to be, the owners, to have the ownership of the bodies, of our bodies and of our language. So the piece of Cristina Osunidis sets this. And for me, it was important to open the question about presence and absence. And that was a way to, how can I say, dissociate the audience, make the audience wonder, move them from one solid space. I am here in the physical space, but I know that I'm absent in the other formats that I see happening, and maybe I'm missing something. So there was, I think that there was this very intense feeling of missing something, of moving toward the other entity, which was like the digital or the physical. So there was a meta space in between. And for me, that was a way to create a real experience.
Yes, in relation to this, for Gemma, I wanted to ask you, since theater is an art form that is based on interaction and either physical or verbal interaction with the other performers and also with the audience. So how was it for you to not to be able to have that kind of exchange and also to interact through the video that, in fact, you were not able to see the audience, isn't it, on Zoom? And then also, how was it to translate that with the physical, real audience?
Well, Silvia, yeah, the first impact that we all experienced, as Elli was describing before, so coming from the physical rehearsals and a very intense way of working, Elli has a very intense methodology that is demanding a wonderful state of presence, not only physical, but spiritual, energetical. So coming from that to the seclusion of a home with nobody in front of a screen, and yeah, the lack of the human contact total was quite an impact, I must say. But then something magical maybe happened, because during the days, first with the rehearsal sessions, and then when the audience started to arrive and they started to attend the shows, a kind of community emerged out of this weird platform that we are all experiencing right now, for example, with the streaming theaters, streaming interviews and everything. So what was created was a kind of was a link, a connection that could, in a way, create a dialogue, no matter the limits that we were obliged to face every day, no matter lack of synchronicity, so latency problems, connections problems, no matter people shouting or the sirens of the ambulances disturbing the flow of words or of thoughts. So no matter beyond any odds and wonders, this was creating, and that was maybe, I think, personally for me, that was the light that was taking my hand through this very difficult journey of the seclusion, of the quarantine, of the pandemics, and that could really help me in keep on believing in the importance of human contact, no matter what. And even if we have problems with media platforms or way of connecting, this thing is alive and it's demanding its life that maybe goes beyond everything, like all of it, and it has a power and it has its own strength, and that's what we encountered during all these days and during all the shows, physical, digital shows. That was there, like the connection with the audience, the connection with my colleagues and Elli and the assistants. That was it was quite a a surprise for me, because I was very skeptical in the beginning, and I hate to be here and or to Zoom all day, and I do hate, like I think everybody of us now, but something remains.
Yes, probably over time we dealing with the media, we started to develop another kind of sense that goes beyond, our five senses, and we can somehow adapt also to this new form of communication, where also our emotional life can be transferred and transmitted. I am starting to see that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for us, for example, it was very emotional, especially when the audience started to arrive and to visit our digital events. There is a certain point in the show when we are asking people to open the cameras, and the first, like, how can I describe? Like, every time that people decide to open their cameras and they let us in their homes, and we can see the faces, and we can establish a contact with the eyes, or with what we are trying to do in this weird format. That was extremely touching and moving for us, and that was, no matter, like, we had people coming from India, like from Africa, like from over than 54 countries, and everybody was there, and no matter what time zones they were in, or whatever condition they were, we were here, and in that exactly moment, all together.
If I may say,
and that's amazing that you can break the space. Sorry.
Totally.
No, I just wanted to. I totally agree with Gemma, and I think that there is a potential, like a big challenge of looking at this as a global agora, like with the ancient Greek sense of the word, like that there is this opportunity also to get together. I think what I realized, especially with such a piece that has to do with feminism and political agendas and political correctness, every local country has its own limits. Like, we know some words that will be a taboo to be spoken out in Greece, some others in Sweden, some others. So there are limits. Every smaller community has raised these limits. But when one enters this international agora, what happens when in the same audience, like for such a radical text, a radical feminist text, there is an Indian and a British and a US citizen and an Italian, and they are all opening the cameras at the end, and they talk, because we had a conversation after each show. People would not leave, they would stay, and we would talk about issues. I think there is some kind of very interesting moving ahead, moving toward the other in this space where we don't know what the political correct thing to do is, There's this new freedom, like, and you different kind of accept that there is a real potential there, I see.
Yes, to break through social, correctness, as you said, what's perceived from different cultures.
Also, what is theatrical, what is not theatrical? All these questions. What is a theater? What is art? What is the new language? Do we have the right words to say who we are? Or are we transforming as a society or as individuals into, as you were saying before, like we now possibly have developed a different sense, another sense about the new media. So we are developing very fast. What about our language?
Yes, language, it's in this particular piece, I see you use different kind of languages, and that would be another question I had for you. So there is the written language, the script, and then you have the technology language. So how the performers are dealing with the technical media, with the camera, with the mic, with objects. And then you have the language of the spoken language. So you have English, Sweden, Italian, Greek. You have the subtitle that you read, and then the words that you can hear. So it's interesting how you created somehow another dramaturgy out of these different languages together with the performance. So language is a big theme in the piece.
Language is always the biggest theme in every art, I believe, even in music. Yes. Logos. So this is the beginning, and as I said, like I feel that we are moving through a threshold, and I feel that this crisis we are all facing globally, maybe for the first time after the Second World War, we're sharing a big shift, a big change, a big displacement, let's say. So it doesn't have a negative or a positive meaning, but a displacement is there, or a displacement on our everyday lives, on the way we perceive art, the way we consume art, the way we work, the way everything is kind of moving into another direction. How can we create an experience that would somehow reflect the mobility and the displacement of what we are experiencing in our everyday life? That became a big question for me.
Yes, and it is also something that keeps us alive as artists. So keep investigating new means, new formats, and evolving with what we are experiencing every day in our lives as a society, as a human being. So it's very urgent, I feel.
I remember one of the.
We wanted to show our audience.
Oh, sorry. One of the strongest. What can I say? One of the strongest impression that is left from the process of creating Traces of Antigone was this sense. Do you remember, Elli, when we were talking after maybe rehearsal, we were spending hours in front of this computer and trying to understand how can I move this in order for you to see, and then we were chatting after, because we were completely like, my God, the question was, what are we doing? And the sensation was exactly that, to be on the threshold, like, what are we doing? What is what kind of responsibility are we taking now in creating this thing with my pen in my home, alone with my fellow girls and colleagues and beloved director and actresses and performers, and try to understand how this text work inside this frame. What are we doing? Is it allowed? Are we allowed to do this? This, I remember we were asking this, Elli. Do you remember that?
Of course,
and we were this every evening. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Sorry.
Yes, I think that. Thank you for saying this, Gemma. I think that what you're describing is really a kind of folly. I think that this is art. Like when you are parachuting, but you with no parachute, you just fall from the airplane. You don't know what you're doing. You just spend hours and hours working endlessly because you trust and you believe in the content. That was what was really important for us, to talk about these issues and to share what our sisterhood, what the feminist, what the content, what the language of Christina Ouzounidis was creating for us. So there was an explosion and an exploration at the same time. But there is this folly that you are describing that I totally sign as well. I think I was also a kind of, let's say, intimidated or even bullied at the beginning. As I sent out some message saying this is what we're working on before the premiere, come and see, to certain colleagues. And there were people from Austria, fellow directors saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. We will wait until theater will come back. You have to wait. I mean, it was another political stand at the time, and it was a very radical political stand. No one moves until theater comes back because we cannot go into corporate means. But I think that we were totally anti-productive, and I think that this was the this is whenever one thinks against productivity or against, you know, final product, that this is it and we can sell it and we know what it is. This is what productivity is. What is anti-productive is to create a new language without knowing whether this will be any language in the end, or just something that you spend your time on reflecting and still believing in it while you do it, and enjoying the detail and hard work. So it was very revealing. And yes, thanks to all of the wonderful performers and co-creators. Otherwise, none of this would happen.
It is indeed a very ensemble-based process. And I wanted to share a few excerpts of the piece with the audience with us tonight, so they have a glimpse of what we were talking about. And so we have an 8-minute excerpt trailer from the digital version of the piece that Michele will send to the audience right now.
With a heart that is distressed, but every bird who's wise will build herself a nest. She looked at me and sighed, then a miracle occurred. The little weaver bird got weaving.
Biology, biologia.
Ακούει για ταξιτσίδες, ακούει για δασκάλους, ακούει για πατεράδες πατριούς, ακούει για γνωστούς άνδρες, άνδρες στις παραλίες, άνδρες στα εμπορικά κέντρα, άνδρες νηπιαγωγούς, ακούει για άνδρες στον παιδικό σταθμό, φίλους μεγάλων αδερφών, για δάσκαλους οδήγησης, διευθυντές σχολείων, άνδρες κοινωνικούς λειτουργούς. Μαθαίνει να φοβάται, μαθαίνει να προφυλάσσεται, μαθαίνει να προβλέπει, να φαντάζεται, να σκέφτεται αφηρημένα, να σκέφτεται την αιτία και το αποτέλεσμα. Ξέρει να προσέχει, ξέρει τι μπορεί να συμβεί, ξέρει τι θα πει φόβος, ξέρει πως αποτελεί πιθανό στόχο.
Όσο γι' αυτό την έχουν προειδοποιήσει, της έδωσαν την εμπειρία που δεν έχει, πρώτου καν τη χρειαστεί. Τι χρειάζεται?
Ξέρει να φοβάται, αλλά ξέρει και να προφυλάσσεται, να αποφεύγει.
They have to know, so that they can keep their distances. I would never forgive myself unless I did everything in my power to warn her.
She knows how to protect herself. She knows how not to give the wrong impression. She knows how to take responsibility. She knows how to change her way. She knows that her sister got lost. She disappeared. Though no one knows what happened to her.
Maybe she was sacrificed to the gods. She knows that. Her sister, herself, any girl. It happens. Sooner or later, it happens. One day they run along the olive grove, the next day they are gone. And no mother, no father can prevent it. No brother. She knows what everyone else knows so often that it becomes a cause of fear.
Ξέρει τι σημαίνει εξαφάνιση, ξέρει τι σημαίνει θύμα, ξέρει τι σημαίνει πόνος, ξέρει όλα όσα μπορεί να πάθει το σώμα ενός κοριτσιού. Ο πόνος της αδερφής της είναι το σχολείο της, είναι η σωματική της μνήμη και η αποφυγή Το ξέρει, τώρα το ξέρει, ότι εγκυμονούν κίνδυνοι στο δάσος, στους δρόμους, τη νύχτα, προπαντός τη νύχτα.
She knows that time is the difference, that her sister is innocent, just like herself, that it's most probably just a matter of time.
Και αν αποκοιμηθεί, ονειρεύεται σχισμές βράχων, σοκάκια, δωμάτια χωρίς παράθυρα. Ονειρεύεται το δάσος, σκιές, βήματα στο χιόνι. Ονειρεύεται τα σώματα και την ανεξέλεγκτη δύναμη των σωμάτων.
Προσέχει, κινείται με στόχο, σκέφτεται τη βία, τη σεξουαλική βία, την τρέμει, την περιμένει.
Αρχίζει λοιπόν με την αγωνία. Την τρώει. Συχνά ξοδεύει μερόνυχτα προσπαθώντας να την υποτάξει, ώστε να μπορέσει να ασχοληθεί με κάτι άλλο, οτιδήποτε. Προσπαθεί να συγκεντρωθεί σε κάτι για να ηρεμήσει. Αλλά όταν η αγωνία της καλπάζει, είναι δύσκολο. Οι λέξεις μπροστά στα μάτια της είναι κενές. Τις διαβάζει ξανά και ξανά και δεν καταλαβαίνει τι διαβάζει. Κάθε φορά που αποτυγχάνει, ξέρει πως πρέπει να αρχίσει από την αρχή. Το άσκοπο αυτό καθ' αυτό αποδεικνύει το νόημα της πράξης. Με άλλα λόγια, συνεχίζει. Από την αρχή. Κάνει αυτό που πρέπει να κάνει.
She does what she has to do. She adapts. She adapts since this is the only way to move on, to subdue the agony that tries to cripple her.
Φοβάται να πάει στο σχολείο, φοβάται να αρρωστήσει. Φοβάται τη φθορά του σώματος και την αρρώστια. Φοβάται να δώσει λάθος εντυπώσεις. Φοβάται το σκοτάδι. Φοβάται να αποτύχει σε αυτό που ανέλαβε να διεκπαιρεώσει. Φοβάται ότι θα πεθάνει η μητέρα της εν μείνει στο σχολείο. Φοβάται την απόρριψη. Φοβάται μην αναματήσει, μην πληρώσει τους θεούς. Φοβάται την χτυπήσει. Φοβάται τους άλλους, τους ενήλικες. Φοβάται τα μεγάλα πόδια. Φοβάται να αργοπορήσει. Φοβάται το ξύλο. Φοβάται μην κάνει ανεξιότητες. Φοβάται μην γίνει εμπόδιο.
As you may realize, it is important to call her she. In our case, it's not a random choice. I want to point it out. It's not a boy. It's a human being. It's a girl. It's important to call her by her name. Anything else would be like rejecting her. She is a girl. We can't use a neutral word. In her case, it's too late. When she becomes an adult, maybe she will say, I am not a woman. I am a human being. But this is not something that we can discuss right now. If we conceal the fact that she is a girl, we act against her. She's been brought up as a girl. She, a child, das Kind, neutral. It is not right. I used to think it was, but it's not right. It's not enough. Maybe in the future, but not now. She is a girl, and you have to understand what that means. It sounds biologistic. I am biologistic. If by that you mean that our bodies define us, that knowing the position of our bodies in the world defines us, then I am biologistic.
So we're back. Thanks for sharing with us this excerpt. And I know you have upcoming shows tomorrow, and then in the beginning of March you'll be at the Centre Pompidou. So if you want to tell the audience where and how they can see the show, please.
Maybe Gemma?
Yes. We are on the 3rd of tomorrow. We are playing Traces of Antigone, and you can have all the information either in our Facebook page or on Eventbrite. You just type Traces of Antigone, Elli Papakonstantinou, and you will be directed to the event. And there are going to be new shows later in March as well. But we are very honored and happy to be part of this important day at the Saint Pompidou, organized by IRCAM. We are part of the Vertigo Forum. It's an international symposium especially about new media, art, and digitalization of the art. And we will perform Traces there, and also Elli's new digital creation, Hotel Anti-Oedipus, which is based on a show that Elli and Odyssey did in New York almost 2 years ago now. So if you want to have some information about that, you can go to IRCAM, their site, and
I know that there is some delay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you just type Vertigo Forum IRCAM, then you will see all the information about this symposium. It's very interesting board, and the live shows and our shows.
Great. That's exciting. I wanted to ask Elli, what's next? What's the evolution of this format in regards to interactivity with the audience? And are you working on another piece, as Gemma introduced just a minute ago?
Yes, well, right now we are opening the premiere of a new piece that is Hotel Anti-Oedipus that will open at the Centre Pompidou. And this is much more interactive. It's a piece where the audience are asked throughout it has to do with identity, a fluid identity. So we are inviting the audience to enter with their own avatars and be either with avatars or without avatars, be like protected, like masked, and go from room to room and turn on their cameras and look into rooms and interact with the action. So it's very interactive. I think this is where we are heading. I think we're heading into times where keeping alive a community of artists and of a community around art, live art, will be more and more important. Because I don't think that it will take more time than what we expected originally to go back to real stages, physical stages. So until that happens, we will keep on working with any means we have to create this new community of people around us and these new languages, and to challenge the border of what a stage is all about, what physicality is.
Exactly. There is a comment from one of our audience members. Clara is asking, may I ask something more about the staging? Were there some feelings, some topics in particular that you wanted to express more than others due to the virtual and physical audience?
The main topic now for me, so this is the new piece that I will start developing, is the body. It's what happens with love in the COVID era or the meta-COVID era, what happens with physicality. So the next piece that I will start working is a new piece based on the Symposium by Plato and the idea of platonic love. And I'm very interested to question, reflect upon the changes that are occurring in our communications and in our understanding of our bodies and of ourselves.
Very interesting, Elli. Thanks, Clara, for your comment. And I don't know if there is something else you wanna share, and Gemma, if you have something more to say, will you be part of the next show, or will?
I was trying to remember the feelings during the rehearsals. I was reading Clara's questions, and also, I mean, what was bringing all of us together was this sensation of seclusion, of course, and at the same time of freedom in the limits that we were facing. So it was liberating in the extent that we could actually state at different status from what was forced to assume by the actual condition that we were all in. And that, I think, is something that we also brought along in the hybrid show, in the physical show. Suddenly, when we could finally rejoin and rehearse physically, the sensation was really to be free, and to not only like in a selfish or egoistic way, but to be free together. That the sensation was that we were finally allowed to recreate a new physicality, a new connection with our bodies, with the interactivity with the audience, with the computers as well. But there is something there that is arising, and it's something new, and that was I think that's what it really triggers us. I think I can talk also on behalf of the other girls.
Yes. Well, I wish you the best for the continuation of this process, and I know for us artists, performers, directors, theater people, research and investigation is it's a live question. It's always part of our interest and our love for the work of theater. So thank you for continuing with this research, and I invite the audience to sign up and see the show, which is amazing and has an amazing cast of performers. So good luck for your shows, and
Thank you.
I thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It was great conversation. Thank you for inviting us. Hope to see you again.